Okay, this is my first cooking video, baking bread. Found the easiest recipe in the world, which is what I like, minimal effort for maximum gain. So it's gonna be short and fast, okay? Not gonna be any of this food blood crap where I'm gonna tell you the whole history of the product you're making or anything like, your kids love this after lacrosse practice on Tuesday. Nobody cares. We're just gonna get right to the point. This is gonna make a loaf probably about this size. Maybe for last you 2 or 3 days. First thing we're gonna start with is yeast. Don't skip this step, very important. Dry yeast, active, so you don't have to proof it. Again, the reason I love this recipe so much is it's easy. No crap involved, no butter, no eggs, no punching dough. We shouldn't really be punching anything anyway. So, nice and easy. Oh, and by the way, yes, I know my apron is very cool, thank you. So we're going to start with 3/4 of a tablespoon of yeast. Very important. That's the stuff that'll help it rise, so you need that. I left this out of a recipe once, or this and the baking soda. Yeah, they were like pucks, so not something you want to forget. Next, we're gonna go with water. 1.5 cups of water is what you start with. You may need to add a little bit more if your dough is a little dry. Also, using instant yeast, you don't have to proof it, which is good. Next, we're going to go to the flour. 1.5 cups, all-purpose baking flour or bread flour will do. And you want to be kind of close here. You don't really want to do what I used to do all the time and just wing a recipe and say, no, I know how to do this. I'm just going to change this 5-star restaurant chef recipe around because I know better. You can't do that. The water's running. I'm adding a little extra warm water. So it's supposed to be a little bit warmer to take care of the yeast. Now, by the way, this bowl, you want a big bowl. You need plenty of room. Like, say a bowl like you could wash a baby in, Not that I'm advocating that, but, you want a good-sized bowl. Because you don't want to, you try too small a bowl, the stuff starts spilling over the edge, makes a huge mess. Everybody gets pissed. You don't want that. That was 1 cup. We need another 1/2 cup. And just going to top this off a little here. And it goes. The last thing we need, 3/4 of a tablespoon of kosher salt. I don't know why it's kosher salt. There's like a million different kinds of salt. I just use what I'm told. I guess there's a difference. So, once this is in, this is our last ingredient. So once we put this in, we can get down to business. And you can see kind of minimal mess here, which also I'm big on. You don't want a huge mess. So then we're going to start mixing it together. And the good thing about bread is, with a recipe like this, is if you need to add a little more here or there, you can. Like say it's too dry, it's too wet, you can kind of wing it a little bit. Because what you want, the dough has to be a certain consistency that you can work with. Now this is a little wet, so I think I'm gonna obviously add more flour. And it goes. This into a dough that's kind of stiff, not like really stiff, but something that'll hold together. So consistency we want. It's held together, it's a little moist, it's not dry. I scooped it around the bowl a lot, so you can see it's about this size. Consistency is good, and kind of like the size of a bowling ball. Let's look at it that way. All right, so this is our first stopping point. We take this, I'm gonna cover it with a towel, and now, because this dough has to rise, all right, I stepped out of the shot, but I'm back in. I put it on the top of my oven, which is kind of a relatively warm spot because the oven was on this morning, and timer's gonna go on 2 hours, and that's gonna double in size. And we're back. It's been pretty much a full 24 hours, and we took out our dough, uncovered a little bit, and just gonna kind of work it away from the sides a little bit here. You see it's more than doubled, it's nicely risen, ready to go. So you can be a little rough with this, you know, it's not delicate. It's got toughened up by the cold and everything. So get out a little flour for the bottom. You don't need much, and you don't need much on your hands because it makes it a mess eventually. So you look, I already got it on my sleeve, so that's bound to happen. Now, we're gonna turn it out onto the flour. Turn out, by the way, is a baking phrase I've learned, so once you can start talking in the language, you feel a lot better. So, see how it's a nice ball shape? You know, like I said, kind of like a softball. So basically just want to turn it into like a little bit bigger of a ball. Just work it a little bit. And you don't have to work it much. That's the great thing about sitting overnight in the cold. Gets nice and firm, keeps its shape. So we got it ready to go. Seam side down. And no, we're not ready to bake yet, I'm afraid. So it goes back in the bowl and sits here at room temperature for 40 minutes. And then when that 40 minutes is up, it's our last step. Okay, so 20 minutes have passed. What we're gonna have to do is preheat the Dutch oven. This thing is a great tool for baking bread. This is when I finally kind of nailed it, is when I started using this. And we want this really, really hot. Best baking is when you get stuff as hot as possible. So what we're gonna do is the oven's been preheated to 450, and this goes in, just the oven, not the lid. 450 degree oven to preheat and be warmed up for 20 minutes. Then after 20 minutes, the final step will take place when we can actually put the bread in. So now our 40 minutes is up and we're ready to put it in.
Uh-oh.
My feline assistant has just appeared. She's very helpful. So we'll leave her in the shot because everybody loves a kitty. All right, she's got to go. She's probably late for a nap. So it's a little wet on the bottom. So what I'm going to do, just so it's easy to work with, tiny bit more flour. Right there. Okay. Roll it into the flour. You want everywhere, you don't really want it to be sticky. You want it to be kind of movable everywhere. We're ready to move it, okay? Flour out of the way. We're going to get our parchment paper, because that's how we're going to lower it into that pan. So, we take it, roll it over to the parchment paper. The seam side is down. We'll just give it one more turn so we know where the seam is. Yes, it can be a little bit of a trial, but we got it. Now, what we're going to do, take it with the parchment paper, walk it over to the oven. Now the lawyers will caution me to tell you to be very important with all this hot stuff. It's all hot. And this nice and hot, which is what we want. Now, safety first. I got these adorable 2 little mittens here. And what we're gonna do, grab each side like this. And gently and carefully lower it into the pan. Cover it. In it goes for 30 minutes. So 30 minutes are up. We pull it out. Now, the last finishing touch. Take the lid off. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? But we got a little bit of whiteness right there, so we want to finish this 5 more minutes uncovered. Okay, we are done, finally, after everything. Oven mitts. Be very careful, as always. See, we are done. It's got that nice golden brown color on the top. You're supposed to poke it a little bit to see if it's firm and solid, which it is. Don't touch the sides, it's really hot. You're gonna swear, which is not allowed on these things. And this is done. Let it cool for like 15-20 minutes. I shut the oven door. It's tough, but just let it cool. It'll come out so much better. And I hope you try it and you love it like I did. Teaspoon or tablespoon? That's probably important to know. I forget. Now, 3/4 of a cup of yeast. Okay, come back. Helpful. So we'll leave her in the shop because everybody loves a kitty.